brother Steve is going to share his testimony here, and then another brother, and then a short message from another one. So, welcome to Louisiana.
Guys, my name's Steve Kelly, and my role is what we call in Southern Baptist organizational life, I'm what's called the associational mission strategist. What that basically means is I'm kind of the area overseer for our part of Louisiana. Our area is 2 counties, as you might call them. We call them parishes, and I work with 72 Baptist churches. The largest Baptist church I work with runs 2,000 on Sunday mornings. And then we've got probably 15 of the 72 I work with that run 200 or more. Another one runs about 1,500, but half our churches run 50 or less. So it's a wide swath of churches. Some are very healthy and growing, and some are dying. I have churches right now of the 72 that are dying. They're just in denial, okay? And you got to be careful because churches don't die overnight. It takes time to die. And churches decide, listen to me, churches decide to grow 15 years before they grow. They decide to die 15 years before they die. And so you choose well in advance if you want to live or die in life and in church. And so, you know, with the works here that are newer, that's why you do well out the gate, because you choose at the beginning to live and to thrive. Never stop doing that, because if you ever stop deciding to live, you will start deciding how to die. And churches are dying everywhere in the United States. In Louisiana, we lose every year about 20 to 25 congregations that die, that literally shut the doors. And so we have 1,500 and change churches in the state of Louisiana, which is probably more than a whole nation of Canada for Southern Baptist. But a lot of these were founded 150 years ago. And so many of these are very rural. The community changed. People went to more mechanized farming methods. Schools closed. Things get more centralized in the cities. And so we have churches that close because they're very rural. And so my role is to work with churches. I bring them together. That's what I'm doing with these guys. I'm a part of my dream taking this role 3 years ago. And prior to that, I pastored 32 years. So I lived the life on the pastoral side. Now I'm working on the organizational side. And my role is to help these guys keep vision. So this trip was to help and encourage you, but it was to help and encourage them to expand vision. And I think all of them in just 48 hours would say their vision's been expanded because they've seen and learned some things from your experience and the way that your ministries are going here. So let me tell you where I came from, and I'll try and do this as briefly as possible without giving all the minute details. My testimony begins before I was ever born, because I never should have been born. I never should have existed. My dad was in the U.S. Air Force, and he was a fireman. So Gordon, you were a fireman. My dad was a fireman in the U.S. Air Force. And back in the 50s, when he was in the Air Force, then they had what was called Strategic Air Command, which had certain bases in the U.S., and they were very important then. And so he went around the country and even to England at one point as a fireman with the Strategic Air Command. He was transferred to Northwest Louisiana, Barksdale Air Force Base, which currently is one of the 2 Air Force bases that house the B-52 bombers. And so my dad worked there. And one day as a fireman, he was the crew chief. He went out to the fire line. They had a call. And as he's waiting on the crash trucks, the fire trucks to get there, the brakes went out on one of them. And the fireman, to avoid hitting an aircraft, swerves, runs over my dad, and you know how big a fire engine is, went over my dad's legs. My dad was crushed by a fire engine at the age of 27, and this was 8 years before I was born. He should have bled out and died on the tarmac at Barksdale Air Force Base. The chaplain even asked him if he was ready to die. And miraculously, and he was a lost man. He did not know Jesus then. My mom did not know Jesus then. God saves his life. He moves to San Antonio. There's a major Air Force base there, and they bring him back to health. And he's a cripple the rest of his life. So from 27 to 61, when he would die of cancer, my dad was crippled. He never ran again the rest of his life. But God saved his life, and I was a miracle because I was born in 1965, multiple years later. My mom and dad got saved about the time, a little before I was born. They were both lost. I grew up in metropolitan New Orleans, Louisiana. Now that's why we're here. We're connected through the Cajun connection, the Acadian part of South Louisiana, where the people who were exported from Nova Scotia way back, you know the whole story there. And so South Louisiana is all French. That's why we have the French Quarter, very French culture. We're in northern Louisiana now, which is not French. So it's a very different culture just in the same state. But I grew up in a very Catholic environment. Everyone was Catholic. They didn't practice it, but they were Catholic. You know how that is? I'm sure that happens here. And so all my friends, everyone I knew was Catholic. And for me to be born again was really a long shot. I went to a little church, ran about 30 people, 40 people. I got saved there when I was 8. The convicting power of God hit me on a Sunday night, and I remember tears going down in conviction. I got saved at 8. I never did drugs. I never did alcohol. I never got arrested. I was an honor student. I graduated 5th in a high school class of 300. I mean, I did this stuff you're supposed to do. And God, I was always sensitive to God. Some of you can relate to that. You know, when you hear a message, you're tuned in. I used to watch Billy Graham on TV with my mom, and I'd hear the message as a little boy, and I'd cry. And I'd say, Mom, why am I crying? She said, Steve, it's good. It's okay. It's good that you're crying. I mean, because I had a sensitive heart to the things of God as a little boy. And so I grew up, and I stayed away from all the junk, and I was going to go to college and be a mechanical engineer. I'm a math and science guy. I'm not an English guy. You know, I'm not a guy who writes. So of course I'm in the ministry now, which is all of that. And so I go to be a mechanical engineer. I go to the University of New Orleans, which is a state school in the city. And I can do the work, but I don't have the heart for it, because God's been working on my heart all these years. And so I started dating a girl my first year of college that was going to be a nurse, and she was going to university as well. And we had a relationship going. She went to church, but she was not deep at all. I just met her at church. By the way, make sure if you're not married in this room, don't just find a girl that wants to be with you. Find one who wants to be with Jesus, okay? That's the key. I found a girl who went to church, but not a girl who loved Jesus. And so we dated for 15 months, and I got further from God in those 15 months than I had at any time in my life. We were very engaged sexually, which we shouldn't have been, and God convicted me every time. I'd leave the house feeling dirty because I was in both worlds. By the way, if you're in both worlds, spiritually you're where you should be a lot of time, but then in the world part of the time you feel dirty because you're compromised. So we dated for 15 months. We broke up, and I was, what year was that, 85? I was 19 going on 20. We broke up, and I said, okay, God, it's time to get right and get serious. So at the age of 19, I went through everything I owned, and anything I thought that compromised my relationship with Jesus, I put it in a hefty garbage bag. And so I did an inventory. God, if there's anything that's going to stop me from growing, I want to throw it away. And I went ahead and I put all this stuff in a garbage bag, and we had a drugstore about 3 blocks from where I lived in the city. And I took all that garbage and I put it in a dumpster. I want to get rid of it. I got rid of all my rock and roll albums, which some of them today I would listen to, but back then I didn't need it. And I had some other things. I said, God, I want to get rid of the garbage. Listen to me. You'll never get close to the master if you don't get rid of the garbage. Does that make sense? If you want to get close to the one who's perfect, you got to get rid of things that make you filthy. And so at the age of 19, I did that. And I said, okay, God, I don't know what you want me to do. I switched majors to accounting at that point. I'm going to get in the college ministry at the university I went to. It was not a large one because, again, we're in Catholic country. So I went to the Baptist ministry there on the campus. I was at a college of about 16,000 students. The Baptist ministry had maybe 30 on a good meeting. And I went to a couple of meetings, and they had an opportunity that was called summer missions. And they would send college students all over the world for 10 weeks. I thought I could do that. So at that point, I'm 20 years of age. I applied for it, and they sent me in the summer of 1986 to San Francisco, California for 10 weeks. And I would work in churches in the northern Bay Area of San Francisco. Some of you might have heard of them, Marin County, Napa Valley, that whole area. We did camps and Bible schools, and I preached my first sermon on my 21st birthday at a rescue mission in Santa Rosa, California. to a packed house. I mean, there were men everywhere. I never forget, there's a guy about right here. While I'm preaching, he had the longest knife picking his fingernails. I can just see it. I thought, I better not say anything wrong. And they were not there to hear me preach. They were there because they had to hear me preach to eat. Okay, that's what. It's like, we'll listen to this dude if they'll feed us. So I preached, and I kind of liked it. And I went through that summer, and about 2 weeks before I was finished, this is the summer of 1986, we were at a Baptist camp in the Redwood Forest of California, about an hour north of San Francisco. And I felt God tugging at my heart. And I went by a stream that went through the redwood trees, and I looked up to heaven and said, God, I will serve you the rest of my life. I don't know what it looks like, but I'll do that. And so I came back from that trip. I had switched my major to finance. I got a bachelor's degree in finance. And I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know if it meant going to seminary. I had no idea. I was poor. My wife and I married the next summer, which I met her in California, by the way. She was one of my partners. She was from Texas. We met in California, which really tells you something. Sometimes in order to find what you want, you have to make some big moves in life. If I never go to California, I never meet her. If I never get the hefty bag out, I never meet her. My entire destiny began with throwing away garbage and drawing near to Jesus. And so we married. I got my finance degree. And 3 months before I graduated, I decided to go to Baptist Seminary in New Orleans. We have 6 Southern Baptist seminaries in the U.S. One was 5 miles from where I lived. That's how close it was. So I went there and got my master's degree, and I pastored for 32 years in 6 different churches. And I was a church planter for a little while in the state of Iowa. We were there 92 to 94. But most of my ministry has been in Louisiana, and I started this role 3 years ago. Got to meet Pierre in 2014 when him and Gordon came down. And my goal then was, again, to expose people to something different. Because in the States, let me just tell you, we're entitled and pampered. Hello?
Amen.
We are. We think we're better and bigger and badder than a lot of people should think, especially in the church, because we got churches everywhere. I was at a church 2 weeks ago for a youth event on a Wednesday night. 2 Wednesday nights ago, we host a massive youth event where I live. We had 1,300 teenagers and adults on a Wednesday night. And they just take that for granted. Could you imagine 1,300 Christians coming together on Crazy Breton Island for an event? Would that blow you away? Well, in the States, we don't think anything about it because we're pampered and we think we're entitled. That is what I wanted to expose these guys to by coming. Most of the works here are small, but it doesn't mean you're insignificant. Hear me out. Smallness is not insignificance, because everything big started small. Everything great started with little. And so I thank God He's used me. I just turned 60 a few months ago.
No way.
You thought it was 70, did you?
But guys, I have good news for you. My wife's alive. Amen. She's never died once. So but it's a pleasure to be with you. And let me just say this to the man in the room who's compromised. And this, I'll give you 2 more minutes. If there's alcohol in your life, get rid of it. No one who's ever started drinking intended to be an alcoholic. It was the tolerance of little that led to much. Okay? For those of you that look at pornography on your phones and your computers, you're saying, I'm just taking the edge off. No. What starts with little becomes an obsession. No drug addict ever intended to be. He was just trying to take the edge off. And that's what Satan does. He tempts you with the marginal to embrace you with much. And the devil always overpromises and underdelivers. By the way, you're going to love this, and I'll quit. Tim runs 2 funeral homes in Louisiana.
Okay, here we go.
And he's going to... And I tell him this. We have another pastor where I serve, owns a funeral home.
He didn't come here looking for business.
I see some guys pretty close to it, though. And here's what I say to Tim. On Sunday, Tim will lift you up. But on Monday, he'll put you down. Man. So, well, guys, serve Jesus, have a good sense of humor, lead your families, be the spiritual leader of your home, and do it with all your heart. Don't have enough faith to make your conscience clear, but not your heart full. So, I have a sermon I preach, and I'll leave you with this. A lot of men are in the house of God, but they're not in touch with the heart of God. So if you're in the house of God, but you're not in touch with the heart of God, you're just an actor. So be a man who's in the house of God, who's in touch with the heart of God, and you'll do well.